Good morning. Welcome to Let's Have a Cuppa, where we grab a cup and have a chat with a friend every week. My name is Anna Knob, and today I am joined by a very sweet friend of mine, and she is a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur extraordinaire. She does so much. I don't know how she does it. Welcome to my friend, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rachel, our common thread, how we kind of know each other there, is we went to high school together.
Yes, we did.
We went to a very small, random little high school in Berks County called Daniel Boone. And we're both still fairly local, I feel like is a good term for it. And you've been really involved with the school, actually. What have you been doing with them?
Yes. So I am an entrepreneur. I own a high-tech corn maze, and I've been a guest speaker at Daniel Boone twice now for the students who are interested in owning a business one day or managing a business. And I just go and share my experience. That has led me to the opportunity to open up internship programs for the students there. So I'm going to be very connected with them in the upcoming year.
Yeah, I used to run the internship program for the nonprofit that I worked for, and I loved working with the intern kids. They're so fun, and it's just a great opportunity. I feel like as a business owner and even just anybody in leadership, to when you're nurturing somebody and really showing them how to do the things, it's really a lot of fun and growing for you too. And you catch
Absolutely.
things, yeah, you catch a lot of things yourself. You're like, oh, maybe I need to, tweak that a bit. Now, you already talked a little bit about how you guys have a corn maze, but you did not start with that. So after high school, what did you kind of start doing to get into the entrepreneurial world?
So growing up, my dad owned corn mazes. So that was my introductory to the business. He actually opened the second corn maze in the United States. So if anyone's local, you've heard of Cherry Crest Farms. They were the first, and he went there and got the idea. So growing up, I knew I wanted to do a corn maze when I graduated high school. So that was kind of my plan. I know I wanted to be a mom and a wife, obviously, first. But I wanted to do a corn maze. So right after graduating high school, my dad was very helpful with getting it off the ground for me, with me. So we knocked on farmers' doors asking if I could rent their farm because, 18-year-old can't buy a farm. So I had to rent the farm. So yeah, right out of high school, that's what I did. We found a local farmer who was willing to work with us, and they were very kind to let us pay the $5,000 rent after the corn maze season so I could pay for it. So that's what I did. I opened a corn maze right out of high school.
Oh my goodness, that's so fun. And you are married, as you mentioned, and you guys got married fairly quickly out of high school, right?
Yes. So I actually met my husband at the corn maze. We had a local youth group there who was volunteering before we opened. So the youth pastor's wife and I were chit-chatting, and she's like, so you're single? I happened to be seeing a guy at the time, but he wasn't committing. So I'm like, well, yeah, kind of. I'm not married. So she's like, we have a lot of nice young men at our church. You should come on over and check them out. Well, she took the initiative then to tell them about me. So my husband came over one day on a motorcycle. We talked before we opened up for the day, and I found out he worked on motorcycles and happened to be getting laid off for the season because it was getting into the winter season. So I hired him the day I met him, and we worked together every day for the whole corn maze season. 3 months into dating, we got engaged, and then we were married 6 months after engagement. So we only knew each other 9 months when we got married.
Oh my goodness. And he does all of the things with you too, right? How does he, I mean, obviously he's cool with the entrepreneurial thing because he does it with you. Did he think you were crazy in the beginning though?
I think he thinks I'm crazier now than when he met me. Yeah, when we met, obviously we worked together. He did go back then and worked on motorcycles in the summertime because the corn maze was a seasonal business for me. At that time, I had a full-time job as a nanny. So during the week, I was nannying, and then on the weekend, I was putting in 40 to 50 hours on the weekend. So I was working about 80 hours when we met. Then we paused on the corn maze thing. We had kids, and 3 years ago bought a farm and have our permanent location in Gilbertsville. And so he actually is still working at the motorcycle shop as one of their head technicians, and he's full-time there now. So he helps on the weekends. He actually works Saturdays at the motorcycle shop, so he's only available Sundays. So he's not as involved during the operational season as he used to be.
Sure. Yeah,
but he's supportive.
yeah. And how old are you have 2 boys?
Yes.
And how old are they now?
We have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And do they just love tromping on the farm like all the time?
They do. Last year, my younger of the 2 went into the corn maze with a family and walked around the corn maze with them, and I panicked because I couldn't find him.
Oh my goodness.
So they feel very at home at the farm.
Yeah, that's great. What else do you guys, so you have the corn maze, obviously. What other ventures do you have at the farm there? I know you have a few.
Yeah, so the corn maze farm is next to our second farm that we own, which is a 95-acre horse boarding facility. So we refer to that farm as the ranch, like the horse ranch. And then the farm is where the corn maze is, because we kind of got to distinguish the two.
Yeah.
So I oversee the finances there. We rent out the stables and the fields to a horse trainer. So she runs her business there. And then we have a 200-year-old farmhouse on the property that we were renting for the last 3 years. So I renovated the farmhouse from top to bottom, had renters there. And we actually, fun fact, had a Ukrainian refugee family there. The timing just worked out perfectly where they needed to stay, and it happened to be vacant. So we let them stay there for a few months to get on their feet. So now I've been going through applications, I've been showing the house for rent, and we're just not finding the right renter. The farmhouse is very large, so we're asking $2,500 a month. And at that price point, a lot of people could get a mortgage for that price, our ideal rent. So I've decided to pivot and change our plan to an Airbnb.
Yes.
So actually today I will be going over, taking pictures and listing it on Airbnb today.
And that is so fun. Definitely a pivot. And I love that you kind of looked at the situation and we're just realistic about it. You know, a lot of people would not be. And I think when you have that entrepreneurial kind of mindset, you're always looking at, okay, if this doesn't work, how can I change it, flip it? Because you have the house, you have it, you know, it's not going anywhere. And I'm going to assume you have no interest in selling it. And so, and so you really have to take a look at that and go, what makes the most sense? And I think an Airbnb is a great idea. And you've had a lot of fun decorating it. You've been posting reels and pictures on Instagram. And you guys just went to Waco.
I did.
And came back with some goodies. And you got to stay in one of the Gaines's Airbnbs, right?
I did. So I took a lot of notes while I was there, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if we can't get a renter by the time I get home, we're doing Airbnb. So they had a lot of details in their Airbnb, like a notepad next to the bed, and it said "Sweet Dreams" on it, handwritten note. I mean, just the tiniest little details matter and make you feel special, even though they do that for everybody. So I came back with a lot of ideas from Waco. Something that we are doing, this ties into Waco. You get a little special detail here. My family and I are pursuing filming a reality TV show about our lives. And my dad and I work closely together, so we would be the 2 main characters in the episode. And while in Waco, it was supposed to be a 10-year wedding anniversary trip with my husband and I. And it's supposed to be because as an entrepreneur, between my family and I, we have 3 businesses, and I just can't turn my brain off very well. My husband, on the other hand, has the wonderful gift of just turning his brain off and relaxing and like doing nothing.
And not thinking about vacation mode, like a late switch.
Yeah, so we had a lot of conversation, and thankfully we had 3 days drive to get to Waco to talk out our plan while we were there. Because while in Waco, I was hoping and praying for a connection with somebody with Magnolia Network, because we love what the Gaineses have done. We appreciate their values and think that it would be a great fit for our show. So my husband and I are like, how do we balance the opportunity end of things where we might run into somebody versus we're on a family, not family, but like anniversary, like this is just for us. We need to focus on us, not work. So we worked it out. But on our last day there, we had literally like 5 hours left in Waco. We planned to take a private tour of the silos. So with this tour, it's not a one-on-one private tour. There's about 10 people per group. They only do one tour per day. So it's 45 minutes before they open for the day. And upon arrival in Texas, we drove into ice, and all of Waco shut down for 2 days. So because of the ice, they didn't have tours for 2 days. So the day we had a tour, they decided, you know what, we're going to try something new. Talk about pivoting, right? They only do one tour. Well, they opened up another tour. And as we met our tour guide, we went on our tour. The other team went on their tour. We kind of like, they went on one end of the property, we went on the other end. And he was very open about it, saying, hey, I've never done a tour before, so bear with me. And we're kind of joking around about it. So toward the end of the tour, he shares that he has a very high position at Magnolia. And over the last 2 years of pursuing a reality show, I have made a ton of connections in the TV film industry. I'm literally making these connections on my own through Google, through a lot of research, figuring out who works for what network, what kind of these networks film. So I have a pretty large selection of people that I've talked to or that I plan to talk to. So he mentioned somebody from Magnolia, and I leaned over to Sam and I said, she's a big deal. So that was my first clue. I'm like, I know who he's talking about. He didn't name names, but he described her. And Chip and Joe in their book talk about a girl who has been with them from the very beginning. So they describe her and give a first name basis. And with my research, I knew who they were talking about. Anyway, I put all these pieces together going, Sam, he's a big deal, really big deal. So after the tour ended, I leaned over to Sam and I was like, I really need to talk to him. So he leans back in his seat and he's really like, not about going up and talking to a stranger about this, but he's like, you go ahead, I'll stay here. So in that moment of pause, he's walking out the door and some lady comes up to me and goes, oh, do you want your picture taken? And I was like, oh no, because it must have looked like I was wanting my picture taken. So then she hands me her phone and goes, here, please take my picture. So of course I couldn't say no. So I took her picture and the guy ran away. I'm like, oh no. So Sam and I talked after I took their pictures and I said, look, if I see him again on our way out to the car, because by this point we were leaving Waco, I said, I'm going to talk to him. And he's like, please do. Like, I wanted you to talk to him. So as we left the building, he was walking right towards us. So I had a 15-minute conversation with him. Sam was there with me and we pretty much shared our plans for filming a show. We talked about how far we've come. I had somebody from Magnolia Network actually watch our pilot episode about a year ago and he loved it. He said it was great, but they're looking for do-it-yourself or cooking shows at that time. So after talking with this major connection, and when I say major, he literally goes to Chip and Joe's house. Like he's that close to them.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it was a really good connection. So since then, I connected with this person on LinkedIn, and it is amazing the connections that I have made in the last 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
People from Magnolia are finding me and connecting with me instead of me trying to find them, which has been huge. Another fun fact that happened, I do love interior design, as you mentioned, with the Airbnbs. And I had the interior designer from the White House follow me this past week on LinkedIn. I'm like, this is right. And she has a connection with this guy. So his connections are seeing me and starting to follow me. So that's been really cool, all because of our anniversary trip to Waco. Just
Yeah.
one connection can propel you forward quite a bit.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, like just walking through doors, I feel like you have really good as I've been watching your journey the last few years, we're Insta friends, obviously, too.
Yes.
But as we've been watching your journey the last few years, you seem to have just a really good knack for knowing the doors to walk through, but also knowing when it's time to close a door.
Yeah.
And I know we're Christians. We're just going to say it's fine.
Sure.
And I know that a lot of that obviously has to do with the fact that, you are seeking discernment and wisdom from the Lord. And that's something that I always appreciate about you too, is just your like vulnerability and honesty in that, in saying like, we prayed really hard about this decision and like we decided to go in a different direction, or we decided that this was the next step for us. And it's just really cool to see how all of your little things aren't little things anymore. Everything is kind of growing, and again, just making that decision like, you know what, if the door opens for us to talk to him again, we'll do it. But if it doesn't, then we'll take that and be okay with it and just go home. And I think a lot of doors open just going in with it, with that attitude, when you just hand it over to God and say, you know what, if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, like, I trust that plan and that's okay. I think is when the best doors open. He's like, all right, you trust me. Here's like this super door, and not the like little tiny window that you were going to try and shove yourself through. So
there's no way we could have any of what we have without God's help. I mean, a lot of people in our area look at my dad and I in particular, because we're the face of the businesses. Obviously, we have a team, multiple teams behind us helping us. But when we met a neighbor, for example, this past week, and they thought they were meeting celebrities. Like, local people look at us thinking we are like superhumans, I guess. And people get nervous when they talk to us. The reality is, like, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about my dad. Sure. We actually are not like multi-millionaire people. We have 2 farms only because God has literally, like, I mean, it would take me 2 hours to go through all of the doors and all of the things that had to happen in order for us to end up with the 2 farms, because we didn't even have the money to buy them at the time. And here we are with them. So God has definitely been the reason we're as successful as we are, hands down.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. Again, it's just cool to watch your journey. And that's why you're here, because you're one of the cool people that I follow and that I'm friends with. And I love counting you as a friend there. I also saw that you guys are getting ready to do birthday parties at the farm. And you have some fun animals that can come, which I'm super excited about. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So in the spring and summer, we offer our farm for rent. So somebody can book a 3-hour time slot at the Corn Maze Farm to have exclusive access for their party. It's a flat fee of $400, and they can invite as many people as they want. They get to see our animals. So like you mentioned, my 2 favorite, and I think everybody else's favorites, are our miniature donkeys. They're fully grown, and yet they're so small. They are just adorable. So we have miniature donkeys, we have goats, sheep. We have 1 bunny and 1 chicken at the moment. Some of the additions coming this spring, we are adding Bunnyville. So it is going to be a huge bunny cage that looks like a ton of little shops, and the bunnies can hop in and out of the little shops. So we're going to add more bunnies to fill Bunnyville. And then obviously we want to get more chickens. My family love the fresh eggs. We don't have enough eggs to share, but more chickens would be nice. Sadly, the foxes, I like to let them out to be free range chickens, and we have foxes and hawks. So even during the day, they're not safe, sadly. So we'll be getting more chickens. So the party has really been a hit. Last summer and spring was the first time I ever offered our farm for rent for people to come host parties. And it was successful, and I've already have people booking into June and July and August, which right now we're only in February. So I think it's pretty crazy that they're planning that far ahead.
Like June, though. It nearly feels like June. I actually was looking in my closet this morning to get dressed, and I was like, I might actually be able to wear shorts on Thursday.
Yeah. Right.
It's so weird, but so many fun and wonderful things. If you had, and I'm sure you could ask this question, so I'll ask it anyway. If you're high school students, right? When you go and you talk to the high school kids and you have your interns, when they probably all ask you this question, what is kind of the advice you give to somebody who thinks they want to go into business, entrepreneurship, and they just kind of don't know where to start? What is your suggestion as far as starting? Should they take, maybe some like Montco? Clearly, we're from the same area. Do they take some community college business classes? Do they just jump into it? Like, what are some of your thoughts there?
Sure. So I never went to college. I like to preach. You don't have to go to college unless you want to be my brain surgeon.
Right.
Then please go to college. Yeah, it depends on the industry. So I'm pretty versed in multiple different businesses. So we talked about the corn maze business. We talked about the horse ranch business. And then the third business my family owns is a national infrared heater company. Yep. So they're very different because that's selling a product. It's not a destination for people or any space. So every business is very different. And honestly, I don't have them all figured out. I have not figured out the marketing for Heat for Less yet. I can get big accounts, we wholesale, but the individual marketing, I'm still learning. As a business owner now for many years, I'm still learning. So you don't have to have it all together before you start. My recommendation would be find somebody in the industry that you want to go into and shadow them, talk to them, try to get to a meeting to sit down with them and let them talk, let them share their history with you. Like, how did they get started? What are their struggles? What are their connections? I like to listen to a lot of different leadership podcasts. And one of the guys that I listened to was talking about how he's a pastor, major pastor. And he said when he was starting, he met with pastors who had mega churches and he would pay them money, take them out to eat, and he would just interview them. And so that's something that I currently am practicing in the TV world. I don't know what I'm doing. We hired a local college and they filmed a pilot episode for us, which was great. We have something to show for, what we want to do with our show, but it's just a stepping stone, right? Like you need to try to make those connections with those people, offer to pay people for their time to sit down with them and see how they did it. So when my husband and I were in Waco, Texas, we drove home, and on the way home, we took a different route and went through Louisiana, which is where Duck Dynasty has their warehouse tour.
Yes, I did see that. I forgot you did that too.
Yeah. And the self-guided tour was so helpful for us because I wanted to know, how did they get started? I mean, there are a bunch of I don't want to say hillbilly because that's not the right term, but redneck in the woods, big bearded men who like to go hunting and fishing. How did they start a TV show? Did they have the money to hire a production crew? Because for us, that's our problem right now. We met with a national producer 3 years ago. And he was our first connection, honestly. And he's a big guy. He's filmed major TV shows on networks and stuff. He said, you guys have a show. Like, you are very entertaining. Your properties are amazing. You could have endless content. But he wouldn't do it for free. So it was $80,000 for one episode. And we're just like, that's not happening. That's why we hired this college to come do it. But so Duck Dynasty, they actually did it themselves. Their first DVD was done by one of the brothers. He went out there hunting and fishing with the family and did it himself. So we're learning from people who've done it. So if you want to go in business, like I said, find somebody who's done it. Go on YouTube. Like, I have YouTubed so many things. There's so much information out there for free if you go looking for it.
Yeah, that's like I think it's a reel that it's like, how did you get so good at doing it? And it's like, I just Googled it and did what it said.
That's
Um,
right.
which I completely empathize with in so many ways. When I started doing homeschool evaluations here in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
I Googled it to make sure that I like met the requirements and knew what I was doing and was like, oh, I can
Yeah.
do this. When I decided to start a podcast, you are one
Yes.
of my early interviews here. I literally Googled it, or, just from listening to podcasts, they're always like Anchor. And so I was like, oh, I'll take a look at Anchor because that's what everybody else uses. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, follow the lines. And my mom the other day, she was like, how do you know how to do this? I was like, I don't. We're figured out as
That's
we
right.
go here. But
That's
as you said, if you wait until you have it figured out, you're never going to get it done.
That's right.
So you just
It's
kind
going
of
to
have
only
to.
get better. It's only going to get better.
Right. That,
Yep.
that's what I'm going with. You kind of have to just jump in there. Uh,
Yep.
that is great advice. And like you said, there are so many people who are willing to talk and willing to share. I also think it's really important. What you also mentioned is being willing to pay people. Everybody kind of has a threshold of like, yeah, I'll be happy to share information with you or chat with you. But it's the same for artists. We always look at artists and say, oh, you need to make sure that you're paying artists. And I feel like at this point, people are getting better about that.
Yeah.
But people don't necessarily think, oh, if I have a business meeting with somebody and ask them a bunch of questions, like I don't need to pay them because they're not making me something. And, they have time and it's valuable and they have experience and they have years. Again, like that time thing. And so their time is worth something. And, you know, the good old, oh, well, I'll make sure I post about it on Instagram, is nice. I think a lot of people don't realize how little even big accounts make.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this too. I have a few friends that have over like 75,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, well, how do you do with like this or this? And they're like, like we signed up for the Reels bonus or whatever. And, we post our links and our affiliate links and our product links and stuff, but we only get X amount of sales. And it is not anywhere near what people probably think it is. And so, yeah, just being cognizant of that time and that expertise, really. They went through all of that. Rachel, is there anything else that we need to know about your businesses that you would like to share with us? You said you were getting ready to post your Airbnb today or tomorrow.
Yeah. Today. Yeah. I'm going to be going over there once we finish up here. I'm going to put the finishing touches on the house and take pictures and list it. So I will send over the link to you so you can put that in the comments. I would love to have some people come, stay, leave some reviews because obviously we're starting from nothing.
Right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you having me on. This has been really fun talking to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm excited to see where this podcast goes because you have so much knowledge to share with people. I've loved watching you start your homeschooling curriculum journey and posting about that. If I didn't have 3 businesses, I would be buying your curriculum. But I don't have time to homeschool.
I understand. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, it was wonderful to catch up with you. It was nice to have a cuppa. The last question, since this is called Let's Have a Cuppa, is what is your favorite drink to have in your cup? And it can be hot or cold.
Oh man, so I've recently become a coffee drinker, which never in a million years did I think I would drink coffee.
Welcome to the
Growing up,
team.
I
God
love
bless
the
you.
smell. Yeah, I love the smell ever since I was born. Woke up to coffee every morning, the smell of it. My mom used to drink it. So Sam, my husband, he's like, you should just drink coffee in the morning. You just should. And he finally convinced me. So my favorite drink is definitely my cup of coffee in the morning. But I need a lot of creamer, a lot of sweet cream. It's got to be super sweet.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I think everybody as a new coffee drinker starts out that way. And then you kind of like start to branch out a little bit and explore. I'll have to send you some good coffee links there.
Yep.
Rachel, thank you again so much for joining me. It was wonderful to hear about all of your experiences and some of your wisdom and advice there. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Go grab a cuppa if you haven't. Hopefully you've finished folding your laundry, your chores as you've been listening, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.